Hey mini enthusiasts, how are you doing? Welcome back. I hope you're all well and I hope you're having a great day. In today's episode, we're going to fit the subframe back in Project Tardis and we're just going to fit a few bits on. We're not quite going to get to the point of refitting the drivetrain just because I'm waiting for a couple of little bits there, but we'll get that refitted. So if you want to watch that, stay tuned. Just wanted to say thanks for tuning in and watching again. I've really struggled with the motivation over the last week. In fact, it's probably the longest period I've had between sessions in the garage. I don't think I've been in here working on the car for a week, which is quite unusual. I'm usually out here every other night. Yeah, and I've just lack a bit of mojo, really. Lack a bit of enthusiasm. I'm mainly sort of driven by things like the London to Brighton got cancelled in the last week. So that's gutting. That really is disappointing because that's a sort of timeline I'd usually be working towards, and just other shows as well. You know, they all go quiet. There's Bingley Hall Mini Fair, which obviously has been delayed. I think they've moved it to March now, but it's very unlikely that'll go ahead, I think. Other mini shows like Brooklands, I've not heard anything about that. So it's, you know, you just lack motivation when you're not working towards anything. But I need to get back on it. I enjoyed doing the videos. I'm actually quite proud that I managed to keep my 2 video a week upload schedule, you know, Sundays and Wednesdays, and that's been going on for, I think I've probably uploaded 2+ videos for well over 2 years now. So that does kind of give me a bit of a kick up the backside sometimes to come out into the garage. Just before we get into this week's video, I will mention, because I've mentioned it in recent videos, about the dehumidifier. Today, it's at 98% humidity, 10.5 degrees. I bought the wrong type of dehumidifier for the garage. So there are 2 types. There's a compressor type and a desiccant type. Compressor type is probably the more common one you would expect to see it, and it's the one that's most common that you use in like households and things like that. It is relatively cheap to run of the dehumidifier types. It's pretty energy efficient, and they work basically by cooling the air down by a few degrees, like with a refrigerant, and then they warm the air up a little bit, and that causes the moisture in the air to condensate, and they collect that condensate, which you then collect in the container at the bottom and empty, and that obviously reduces the humidity. But even though EBAC, the people that make it, say it works down to 3 degrees, because you think, hang on a minute, 3 degrees and then it's going to lower the temperature a few degrees, surely it'll ice up. Well, that's exactly what happens. And I've actually found anything below about 10 degrees, it just turns into an ice making machine. It just creates loads of ice, is not taking the moisture out of the air. So it's a bit pointless. So it's really high humidity in here at the moment because I've actually taken it out and I've put it in the house for the last week. I've brought it back in now because temperatures have warmed up a bit, and I'll get it working again. And during the summer, in more sort of, you know, slightly warmer temperatures, a compressor type dehumidifier is probably going to be absolutely fine. But if you're using it in a garage and it's going to drop below sort of 10 degrees and it's going to get cold, you're probably going to be better off with a desiccant type dehumidifier, which works in a completely different way. It passes warm air over a desiccant, and that's what takes the moisture out of the air. So it works completely different. They are, however, less energy efficient. And when I look at the wattage ratings between a compressor type and a desiccant type, it's about double. So it's going to cost you twice as much to run a desiccant type dehumidifier. So with that in mind, what I'm probably going to do is I run an electric car, an EV, as a daily driver. So I have an EV tariff, which is really, really cheap between midnight and 5 AM. It's less than 5p a kilowatt hour. So what I might do, I think, is use a compressor type one in the house, get a desiccant type one for the garage, and then just have it set during the winter on those through the night hours, sort of midnight to 5 or 6 AM in the morning, and then just have it on full whack then, because it's really cheap on electricity, get all the air moisture out the air overnight, and that should be all right during the day then. So let me stop waffling on. Obviously next episode we're going to get this drivetrain built up and put back in, and we've refurbished a few parts like the brake master cylinder, which I'll go into in you know, in a little bit more detail. We do have a bit of a collaboration coming up with another YouTuber, so I'm quite excited about that as well. It's going to be a good bit of fun, I think. Yeah, enjoy this week's video. Sorry for waffling on, and have a great day. Look after yourselves, and catch you again soon. Right, so I've done a fair amount off camera, just cleaning up and refurbishing parts really. Brake calipers, they're all fitted up with new pads, new split pins. They've all been cleaned up, ready to go back on. Obviously we've got some new stuff, brake hoses, shock absorbers, all new rubbers. Drive shafts I've just primered and given a lick of paint just to make them look a bit better. The top shock mounts are ready to go back on now. So what I've actually done, what I actually do with these, what I tend to do, is obviously they corrode on the back here, between the back of there and the inner wing, and they corrode because water gets between the two surfaces. Now you could use like wax oil, cavity wax, like that, Dynax on the back of there. What I tend to do is just kind of give them a grease gasket. I just get some cheap bearing grease, give it a good wipe over the back there, so it's probably sort of, I don't know, 1 mil thick maybe, and then tighten them up, and then that just seals the whole lot with grease between the two layers, and like I say, it acts like a grease barrier. You could do the same with wax oil or something like that, but grease is probably a little bit cheaper, and it's very good at repelling water. So I just thought I'd show you this quickly. So I'm just putting the new, I've got the new bushes for the front arm. So these are the bushes that go on the inside, and as you'll see, I'll show you in a moment, these can be a real pig to get in on the car, because they're tapered bushes, and the hole that they go on in the arm is tapered as well. So being rubber and new rubber, of course, they feel way too big. It's this pin which holds them in, and what you find, if you just fit them loosely, you really struggle to get them in on the car. So I'll show you how I do it. So just to make my life easier, what I tend to do is pre-assemble these in advance and give them a bit of time. So the first most important thing is you need to make life a little bit easier for yourself and use some rubber grease. You don't need much, just a smear on the tapered part, like that. It'll just help them go in. Don't use grease that's not meant for rubber, because it can deteriorate them. And then, as you can see, what you do is you struggle to get them in far enough on the car. So the easiest way I've found of doing it is I just get a bolt with a washer on it. Washer on the back end. And then I basically use this as like a puller. So that pulls the bushes in nicely, and what we'll do is we'll actually leave that because they'll settle in, and what that'll do is that'll get them compressed in, and when I go fitting them on the car, then it will just make it so much easier. So when it comes to fitting, I'll just undo that bolt quickly, put it in the car, and then you're fitting that pin through. And as you can see, even there, it still needs to compress in a little bit.
Every day we escape, losing all of our faith. We can't live this way. Feel me slowly fade away. Feel me slowly fade away. As far as the wind will take me. Every day I feel time slipping, passing, skipping by. All the words I could say just can't really see
houses, playing with the monsters. They brought me alive, but got no